place where it is safe and appropriate, please close your eyes and take some nice deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and mind. With every exhale, feel like you're letting go of all tension in your body, along with anything in your mind that you do not want. Inhaling peace and exhaling all tension. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily and efficiently burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a god and goddess. Into this space, we also invite the presence of our angels, our teachers, our guides. We ask that we be led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more prosperous, more gentle, wiser, and more loving people. Thank you very much. Blessed be. Empathy, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what somebody else might be feeling. In other words, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And just because we all have the capacity to do that, doesn't mean that we necessarily do that. When the ego gets a hold of any concept, it turns it into something else, even though the labels still remain. The ego's idea of empathy is based on a desire to connect with what is similar to the ego. So it tries to connect with other egos. It tries to identify other egos and tries to tell you that empathy means that you are sharing their pain, that the more you can feel their pain, the more empathetic you are. The more you can get pulled down into the quicksand with them, the better of a person you are. Whereas the spirit's perspective of empathy is that you want to be able to recognize the pain that someone's in without getting pulled into it so that you can help them out of it. And a lot of times what people think that they need to do in order to be an empathetic person and then to prove to themselves and the world, I'm a good person, they use that ego definition of empathy and they allow themselves to get pulled into other people's pain. And just think about a drowning person. If a drowning person is struggling to find life, they're not thinking in terms of, I don't want to hurt you. They're just grasping at whatever they can and very frequently taking people down with them because of the struggle that they're experiencing. They're not being evil people, they're not being bad people, but their panic, their fear is such that they can't see clearly, they can't think clearly, and so they take others that are trying to help them down with them. Any rescue worker will know, no, you don't want to get in the water with them necessarily. You want to find a way to leverage yourself so that you're safe and that you can pull them out. Just like in the airplane, when the flight attendant gives you the safety instructions, they always tell you to put on your oxygen mask first and then help other people. You don't want to just pass out with them because then what good are you? I think a lot of us misunderstand the idea of empathy being that we have to get into their pain with them. It's not a workable model for anybody that's trying to be helpful. And I think that's what we all want to ultimately be. Maybe that's not true for you, but it's true for a lot of us, that we want to be helpful. We want to be truly helpful. We want to be able to be here to help people that need help. And by the same token, to be helped when we need to be helped. It's a give and take in this world. But if your definition of empathy is experiencing the pain of the other person, then you're being snowed by your own ego into thinking that you're an empathetic person, when in reality, you are just allowing the ego to hypnotize you into another form of self-destruction and calling it empathy. You want to be able to offer support and assistance and extend help to someone in need, But that doesn't require you to be in need. In fact, the blind can't lead the blind. You're putting yourself in need where you need help from somebody that's outside of the problem. So when we want to learn empathy from a spiritual perspective rather than an ego perspective, it's necessary that we let go of our interpretations about whatever the situation is, to allow ourselves to become learners, because the ego doesn't want to learn. The ego wants to be right. It doesn't want to hear anything other than go into that pain, be in the pain, be in the problem, get down there with them. And I'm right about this. And now you're a good person because you are in there in the suffering with them. Whereas Spirit doesn't want you in the suffering. Spirit doesn't see the value in increasing suffering. That's not being helpful. Understanding that the person is suffering is empathetic, but that doesn't mean that you have to go into the suffering. If somebody's bleeding, it doesn't mean that you need to cut yourself to show you're empathetic, but a lot of people think that's what it is. It's very important to realize people want to confuse guilt with empathy. Who am I to have money when all these people are poor? Who am I to be healthy when they are sick? Who am I to have hair when he's losing his hair? Whatever the empathy is, they will go along with the ego's interpretation of the idea, the concept of empathy. And that includes feeling guilty about not having their problem. You don't have to go through it with them to help them. In fact, it's easier if you're not going through it with them in order to help them, because then you do have a foot on dry land where you can extend the hand or extend the branch or whatever to pull them out of the water. But if you get down there in the water, get down there in the quicksand with them, you both go down. And the ego says, yay. And the ego's insane, because when the ego does that, when the ego puts you into a perspective of self-destruction, the insanity of that is that the ego gets destroyed too. Everything gets destroyed with it. So that's the insanity of the ego. This idea that in order to be empathetic, you have to be in the problem with them. Or at the very least, you have to feel guilty for not having their problem. So in order to find empathy from a spiritual perspective, from the point of view of spirit rather than from the point of view of ego, we have to, when we are confronted with someone in pain, learn how to not react. Learn how to say, I don't know what to do. I'm going to get quiet for a moment, even just for an instant. And that's why it's so important to have daily meditational practice so that you can get into that space very quickly and easily to just say very briefly, please show me. Please tell me what to do. How do I respond to this? I don't know how to respond to this. I'm not going to react to this. I want to have a spiritual response to this. And you will be guided. You will be led. You will be shown what to do. And you will be sent the right help if you need it. But if you just get right there with the ego and you say, okay, we're going to react to this, you don't always do it right. Very frequently, you get down there with them and you both go down together. So learning how to quiet the mind, just assume that your first response or your first reaction may not be accurate, and ask for guidance. Receptive to Spirit's guidance. Resisting the urges of our ego to use this as a vehicle to further separate ourselves from our good. If we can focus on the presence of Spirit in the moments when we are called to have empathy and to be guided and shown, then we have spiritual empathy because we are seeing it from the point of view of Spirit rather than from the distorted perceptions of the ego's projections onto whatever that situation happens to be. And when Spirit's empathy is flowing freely through a situation, healing is always evident. You can't help but have healing occur when the empathy of Spirit is flowing through you. But you can't have healing occur when your ego mind gives you this idea of what it calls empathy, because it's going to throw you down into the pit. Different situations might seem to call for different responses. But that's what the ego wants you to believe. Every situation calls for the same response, no matter what it is. If it's requiring your assistance, if it's requiring you to be helpful, the response is always the same. I don't know. If you start with the idea of I don't know, then you are receptive to being guided. You are receptive to being taught. You are receptive to being used by that higher part of your mind to be the healer that you're meant to be in this situation. But the arrogance of the ego is such that we don't think that we need that. We think we do know. We think we do know what to do. We think we do know what this means. We think we do know what everything is. And we are the highest arbiter of what is real in our situation. And that's where we get stuck. But remember that the ego's belief is in weakness. The spirit's belief is in strength. The ego believes you're weak, wants to show you that you're weak, wants to prove that you're weak, wants to prove that they're weak, wants everybody to be weak together, wants to double down on weakness, vulnerability, aloneness, death, destruction, injury. All of those things are the ego's arsenal. Whereas spirit knows that you're strong. Spirit knows that you exist beyond a body, and that even though our bodies seem vulnerable, the soul that seems to be housed by a body is not vulnerable, is strong. And truly empathetic people will empathize with the soul of that person, not their ego. A truly empathetic person will put themselves in the shoes of the other person's soul, not their ego, because the soul is not subject to the ego unless the mind of that individual allows it to be that way. So you're much stronger as an ally for them when you can see them as a soul rather than as an ego. You recognize that their soul is stronger than their ego. Their soul is stronger than this situation. Their soul is stronger than this illness, stronger than this breakup, stronger than this injury, stronger than whatever it is that they're going through. And we can see the difference when you're using that idea of empathy. What am I empathizing with? Their weakness or their strength? Because if I'm empathizing with their weakness, it's not that that's bad, but it's giving more power to it. It's giving permission to their weakness when we know ultimately their weakness is not what's important. What's important is their ability to heal this, their ability to overcome this, their ability to rise above this. And if you can be empathetic to that and not so much, oh, isn't it awful? I get into that too. I do that a lot. Oh, poor thing. It's not the highest way to be, to think, oh, poor thing. That's not the highest form of support to give them, right? Or at least if you're giving them that, and there's something sweet about that. There's nothing wrong with, oh, but you don't want to stop with that. Let's put it that way. You don't want to say, oh, poor thing. Oh, that really sucks. And then that's it. That's not the kind of empathy that's going to do much. But if you're thinking that way, oh, poor thing, that really sucks, and even silently telling yourself, but I see you as a soul, and I know you're overcoming this, and you have all strength available to you, and this can't get you down. It's impossible, and I'm on your side. You think that to yourself because their ego may not be receptive to you saying that to them. In fact, that may cause it to dig its heels into the problem even more. Very frequently, when we ask for guidance, what do I do, Spirit? Show me what to do, Spirit, because I don't know. I think I know what I want to do, but I've gotten to the point in my development to realize I don't know. So what would you have me do? And if you're listening, Spirit might say, be there with them verbally, tell them how bad it is. You and I, silently now, are going to see them as whole, see them as healthy, see them overcoming this. You see how that works? Because the ego wants you to just go, oh, And then that's it. That's the end of the story. How helpful is that? All you've done is prove to everybody around you that you're not sociopathic by going, oh, but you haven't really helped. You haven't really done much for them, right? But if you can go that extra step by asking Spirit, and then what? Then what do we do? How can I be of assistance here? I only want to be helpful here. I only want to be a source of strength and support for this person. How do I do that? And you'll be shown. You'll be shown as long as you recognize that you don't know all by yourself. And that not only is that okay, but that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be a learner here. If you have that beginner's mind here, if you have that Zen mind, or the witch's mind, I like to call it, if you have that magical mindset of, I don't know, but I'm receptive to learn. I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. From that point of view, you are poised and ready to be of utmost assistance in any situation. Even though the ego says, yeah, but, that's the ego's mantra, yeah, but. You know that somebody's ego is going overtime if you give them a solution and their response is, yeah, but. We have to recognize that no matter what it is that we think we see, there's really only one problem. That problem happens to be that Spirit needs to be in charge of this situation instead of the ego mind. And whoever the sanest person in the room happens to be is entirely up to you. That's your decision who gets to be the sanest person in any situation. You have that choice to make. That's completely up to you, because you can always be the sanest person in the situation by saying, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. I don't know, but I'm open to being taught. I don't know, but Spirit does, and Spirit will show me now. That's a sane response to any situation. A sane response to any situation, no matter how unique it seems, because there is only one need there, and that is for Spirit, not for your ego. And remember that there's only one mind. There's only one power, there's only one source, there's only one substance in all the universe. And since there's only one, nothing can oppose it. Nothing can thwart it. Nothing can go against it. Not even this problem, not even this situation, not even that ego mind. Nothing can go against Spirit. So if we recognize that and we pull back from our fragmented self and say, I don't know, but I'm willing to be shown, then we get the empathy of Spirit rather than the pseudo-empathy of the ego. And when we surrender our needs to Spirit in any situation, those needs are always met, no matter what. But the person going through it is not in the right mind to be able to do that. And they don't necessarily need you lecturing at them at that moment. So what you can do is be there for them in mind, saying, this person's suffering, I'm here to be helpful, and I'm calling on Spirit to come in, and I'm joining with this person, and I'm going to be the point of sanity that they're at this particular moment in time not capable of. And my point of sanity includes nothing more than saying, I don't know what to do, but I'm willing to be shown. I'm willing for Spirit to reveal the answer to me now. And then you just take it one step at a time. When we can surrender our limited understanding of any situation to Spirit's guidance, then we are adepts. What's the point of being a spiritual adept if it's not useful in a situation where healing is called for? So when somebody's going through something, in order to be a spiritual adept, it's not so much about, look what I can do. It's more about, what can Spirit do? What can Spirit do here that I can't do? And I'm willing to be the channel for that. I'm willing to be the vehicle for that here. I'm willing to hold my mind open and see this person beyond this trauma, beyond this pain. I'm willing to see them as souls, because right now they're not capable of it. And that's why I'm here. That's why the universe sent me, because I'm that essential here. And that's not egotistic. That's not arrogant. That's just how it is. It's the truth. A lot of times people think when we get rid of our egos or when we lessen our attachment to our egos that we become less important. That's not it at all. As we lessen our attachment to our ego, we recognize our true importance and how unimportant our ego mind is. All of the arrogant thoughts of our ego are just so silly by comparison to the true nature of our power, the true nature of our essential importance, how essential we are in any situation that we're sent. It's up to us to realize that in any moment of time and point of space, we are there. And we can either see it as, it's just this, that's the ego, or we can see it as Spirit sent me here. What am I here to do? How am I here to be the adept? Not so that you can wow people with your magical abilities, but so that you can be truly helpful in a situation that requires it. That's empathy. It's the empathy of the Spirit, not of the ego. So we allow Spirit to enter into any situation, bless any relationship, bless any experience that's going on, extract only good from it, and keep our minds focused on the solution rather than the problem. We know from working Psalms and also angel magic, one of the most powerful things we can do when we have a problem is start thinking of a divine quality in place of the problem. Switch our minds, pivot our minds completely from being engrossed in the problem to being engrossed in a quality of the divine. And you can do that on behalf of somebody else who's going through whatever they're going through. That's spiritual empathy. Denying that this situation has any power over them. Denying that this illness has any power over them. Denying that this injury has power. Denying that this relationship problem has power over them. And thinking instead of a spiritual quality in its place. Because they're not capable of that right now. So right now, you're the one that gets to be the sane one. Maybe another day they'll be the sane one for you. That's empathy, spiritual empathy. But it doesn't mean getting down in the doldrums with them. It doesn't mean showing your camaraderie with them by experiencing their pain and their problem with them, getting into the water with them and not being able to help them out. That's not empathy. That's the ego's idea of empathy. But spiritual empathy is saying, yes, I can see that you're in this, but I am going to empathize with who you are as a soul. I'm going to see beyond this. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Until next time, blessed be.